Hey, this is Von Diesel, and today we are going to do a quick video talking about some things I have noticed and have been thinking about. So we're going to pop right off with looking at this tweet today. If you're a Division 2 fan, which I assume you are, if you're watching this channel, you know, or you may have seen today that Terry Spier, who is the creative director over at Red Storm, kind of clarified today that, hey, I'm not, working on Division 2 at this point, and to send all feedback about the game currently to Massive and the people over there. So what this kind of piqued my interest is that it's not like Terry is just a guy who does some stuff at Red Storm. He's the creative director. So what I would deduce, and I attempted to get this confirmed and didn't really directly by anyone, but I'm willing to assume that Red Storm is off of Division 2 at this point, which kind of surprised me. What I will point out is that there was a tweet last year in October asking about playtesting, and when this came out, I remember hearing about it. I remember seeing it. And what I'll say is that through some of the people I know who have been involved in stuff, I'm not under the impression this was Division related, and I'm assuming that maybe at this point they weren't even working on Division anymore. And what is interesting to me is that now in hindsight, seeing this, they've got the Guts poster here. This very well may be just a cool throwback poster that they used to ask people to come playtest. One thing to keep in mind is that Ubisoft owns the rights to Brothers in Arms, which is a tactical World War II game that was a third-person shooter and first-person kind of back in the late 2000s, which honestly was one of my favorite games from like that gen. I think that was the 360 generation. And so now I'm wondering if this little poster was supposed to be kind of a wink wink preview of what they might be working on. I don't really know if Brothers in Arms is the type of game that would need to come back, but they very well could be taking the type of game it was and turning it into like maybe like a modern day shooter or something like that. Considering the games that Red Storm has worked on, they would do really well with a game like Brothers in Arms, especially if you consider like Future Soldier and the Division with its third-person combat, and that whole thing. This is kind of a pattern. If any of you paid attention, that last month at the beginning of the month, Frederick Thylander as well, who actually works at Massive, kind of pointed out that he is no longer working on Division 2 either. So what do I think about this? I mean, I'm guessing that Red Storm, as I was kind of alluding to, is working on another game at this point. If you look at the games that they've developed games on their own for a long time. I want to say that was around when they got bought by Ubisoft, and then they started working with Ubisoft Studios. But if you look, they worked on a lot of Ghost Recon games. I mean, they started the Rainbow Six franchise themselves with Tom Clancy. And then they made what is my personal favorite game ever, and Ghost Recon Future Soldier, in combination with Ubisoft Paris. If you don't know that connection, you'll know that Ubisoft Paris is the lead on Ghost Recon now. Me personally, they did Wildlands, and now the Breakpoint, the current one. I personally despise those games. I think they're awful. I don't think they're very good, if you want me to be totally honest. And I've actually hoped for a long time that maybe we would see a Future Soldier sequel. So I could see that maybe in the works, but I kind of doubt it. We could even see a return of, I know that they didn't make it. This was Montreal, but Ubisoft also had the Rainbow Six Vegas games, which were third-person shooters as well, and were super popular. I was highly into those, but I really don't know if they would run into their Siege juggernaut at this point. And so that's what takes me to the list of the Ubisoft properties, and what I went straight to because of that poster that they had there was they had their Brothers in Arms game here. Hell's Highway was the last one. There was actually a third Brothers in Arms that was supposed to come out, that was supposed to be this weird 4-player co-op, kind of like an Inglorious Bastards kind of game, and it got canceled, probably for good reason. You can see that down here in the canceled games, the Furious 4. So that got canceled, probably for the best. So yeah, now what do I think this means for Division 2? It's kind of interesting. So I've seen some kind of mixed feedback on it. I've seen people, everyone always complained about Red Storm and talked about how inept they were, and hated how they treated PvP in Division in Division 2, but now that they're gone, everyone's asking them for to come back and fix it. So that's doesn't seem like it's going to happen, and it's kind of a weird take anyways. What I think it means, Ansi and Frederick leave and some other people. I suspect that they're injecting some new blood, some new leadership. Maybe there's some thought that the way things are going aren't working, and so we're going to see some people having different roles and doing different things in Division 2, maybe even just seeing whole new people involved, maybe new studios, but I don't know. I think it's reasonable to say that I believe at this point, I assume Division 2 has crossed the $400 million profit boundary. They were at 320 at the end of last year. I have to imagine that they've gone at least over 400, maybe around 500. A game that makes $500 million is not going to get cut. So I suspect that we're going to get these seasons for the next year and a half, 2 years. And then I wouldn't be surprised if sometime next year they announce a next generation only Division 3. Now maybe Red Storm's working on that. Maybe that's their baby. Maybe they're working on that now, and they're going to develop it for 2 or 3 years. With maybe help from other studios. I think they're probably working on something separate. I suspect Red Storm is either doing like a Brothers in Arms game, maybe they're even doing, maybe helping out with like a Splinter Cell game, something like that. Some other things that we know may be coming. If I had to put my money on it, I would say Brothers in Arms or Division 3. We could see a future where Massive is working on the Avatar game. I think Massive has been hinting very heavily that there's going to be a new World in Conflict game. So we could see a time where Massive moves to World in Conflict and Avatar, and maybe another studio, maybe a Red Storm, does Division 3 with the help of some other studios. Let me be very clear, probably should have done this at the beginning. Other than what I've shown, which is basically nothing, this is all speculation. I don't have any inside knowledge here. If anything, I'm as curious as anybody. I think it's at least fun to talk about. I think Division 2 is going to be fine. I think they're doing good work. I know the people who are still there are working hard, especially doing their best from home. Game's got some glaring issues, but it's also still pretty fun, at least if you ask me. And I'm curious to what we're going to get in Division 2 beyond these seasons and these leagues and all of that. I think there has to be more than that. And we'll have to see if maybe between seasons we get some new missions or some other stuff in the game. What I'm also curious about is what Red Storm is working on and what people like Frederick have gone on to work on as well. So hopefully maybe around what was supposed to be E3, I assume Ubisoft is going to do some type of digital presentation showing off everything that's coming in the next year. They've obviously got the games that were delayed, Skull and Bones, Beyond Good and Evil 2, Watch Dogs Legion, and Gods and Monsters. I suspect they're going to give us some maybe final dates on those. And then I suspect that we're going to hear about some new projects that these studios and people who we know very well from Division, what they are working on now. That's all I've got for this one. Please discuss down in the comments. We can talk about it on Twitter as well. You can find me at Bondiesel. I do have a Division 2 podcast called The EchoCast, available on all podcast websites. I also have an Xbox podcast called the Xbox Dadcast, also available everywhere you can find them. You can find the EchoCast at the EchoCast on Twitter. You can find the Xbox Podcast at Xbox Dadcast. If you want to support me and my content, whatever, you can check out patreon.com/the EchoCast. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/BonDiesel whenever I decide to stream again. That's all I have. So until next time.